Welcome, dear viewers, to a new episode of Dialogue Horizon. In this episode, we will continue on the ongoing concern of many people about the political turbulence which is now happening in the country in Sudan for quite a long time, for about more than 7 months. And so many initiatives were prepared and produced to bridge the gap between the warring factions, the political parties, the military component. Until this moment, unfortunately, not a single initiative got a consensus or approval. The most important thing which we'll cover in this episode is the initiative or the facilitation of the trio, the international trio, which is the United Nations, represented by Volker under Chapter 6, and the African Union and IGAD. Now these three are working very hard to try to make ends meet. That's why we are hosting in this episode one of our distinguished and active professors in this area and in the revolution. He's our friend, associate professor, Sammani Hanoun. Welcome, dear Sammani Hanoun, in this episode. We hope we'll cover as much as we can on the issue of the international presence.
Thanks, Engineer Abu Haras, for this opportunity, and I take this moment to extend very special greeting to the viewers of Dialogue Horizon around the world on occasions of Eid al-Fitr, as this is first time to appear in the Sudan TV. I hope that next year will be year of peace for Sudanese people and year of economic welfare for Sudanese people. I am happy to join this special episode. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Sammani Hanoun. First, as we mentioned, one of the important legs of the trio is the United Nations, which came in response to a request from Sudan by Prime Minister Dr. Hamdouk to the United Nations Secretary General to appoint a mission under Chapter 6. This was almost 2 years, to assist in the devolution of the country's governance from the autocratic governance of the 30 years old of the Salvation to a full-fledged civilian rule. So the United Nations, under the name of UNITAMS, headed by Mr. Volker. Now Volker is a well-known figure in the country. Everybody knows about Volker.
Yeah.
But also the trio and Volker tried to present and try to broker some kind of peace between the different factions, but till this moment, and they did not succeed.
Yeah.
And now, as you are following, there is a controversy with the Sudanese different parties about the existence, the future of the UNITAMS.
Yeah.
Some people, they say
Debate.
it should not
Continue.
Others. So, and now, maybe after 2 or 3 weeks, as you know, the mission mandate will end for second year unless the United Nations renew it. So do you think the mission will continue? UNITAMS.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for these central questions. I think that needless to repeat the fact that UNITAMS entered Sudan under Chapter 6 in order to enhance the civil democratic transformation in Sudan. And from the title or the name of the mission, we understand UNITAMS is a short way to say United Nations Integrated Transmission Assistance Mission in Sudan, UNITAMS. So from the title, we understand that this special mission is designed to support the transition, the civil democratic transition in Sudan. Since the mission settled down in Sudan during the last 2 years, and up to date, Volker involved in wide range of negotiations with different stakeholders in democracy, in peace process, in order to pave the way for a civil democratic transformation in Sudan. But unfortunately, Volker faced practical challenge for his mission, and that is best expressed by the change or the military overtake during October 25, and the position get it more complicated that need to place a new initiative by Volker under title Facilitating Dialogue among or inter Sudanese dialogue among different stakeholders in Sudan. So Volker involved in this facilitation mission in order to to bridge the differences among the leaders in Sudan and to settle the different opinions among the political parties, among the armed forces, among the armed movements, and different stakeholders in the civil democratic transformation. So up to date, our judgment that Volker failed to realize the strategic goal of the mission in Sudan. And the best example here, Hamdok himself was resigned. And now we are moved to more complicated position after October 25. So Volker failed to achieve the strategic goals of the mission during this. To extend his mission for next period, I think this is based on two scenarios. One scenario, the Security Council may extend the mission for only one or two reasons. One of the reasons that Security Council need to keep a bridge with the Sudan. If they terminate the mission in Sudan, Sudan again will be isolated country, and the international community will not involve in the Sudanese discourse. So extension will give opportunity to the United Nations in order to keep contact with the Sudanese discourse, with the Sudanese people, and also to involve in the civil democratic transformation. This is, I think, one reason. One second reason that today he said, Volker himself said, I am optimistic. And I don't know from where, why he's optimistic. But in a short statement, he said, I am optimistic. That means there is something under table, under progress, in order to reconcile this political disputes in Sudan. I think for these two reasons, the Security Council can extend the periods of Volker for a next period. The other scenario to terminate the mission, and that will complicate the matter, definitely. Sudan will move into isolated environment and new positions that international community also will take more aggressive decision against Sudan. So I think the best thing that the Security Council will extend, and I expect that the Security Council will extend the mission for some times in future in order to settle the pending files or progressing files.
Okay, that's very clear, but still I think, as you said, it's very important that to keep this channel open between Sudan and the international community.
Yeah.
Anyway, without UNITAMs, let us say UNITAMs, maybe Volker, maybe another person, but without UNITAMs, Sudan can never get back to the international community, from which Sudan is in desperate need to salve its country from economic collapse. So we hope, and I think you are saying that it will be most probably it will be renewed, because the minister, I think that the foreign affairs, I think he mentioned today, I read something that he said we cannot ask for the termination of the mission.
Yeah.
Maybe they can ask for changing the person, maybe.
Yeah.
But the mission, they cannot go for that option.
Yeah, I think in this way we can think from 2 points of view. One point of view, I think Volker himself, as an ex-university professor and researcher, he may be fit for research, not for politics. My judgment, and personally, he's not so interactive in the political. He's a key researcher with very good history, and also he's as a professor. He has a demonstrated achievement in different university in Germany. But I think the political life need something more interactive, more with a very clear vision that you can take very long history of the UN in how to compromise and to reconcile the disputes in different parts of the world. So he needs special skills.
But they say that Sudan is not the first mission. The assignment is not for his assignment.
Yeah.
Before, I think he worked in different parts.
He worked, yeah, also in the, I think in Iraq and different part of world. He involved in dispute reconciliations. This is a part of
Did he
the...
succeed? Have you an idea? Have any idea? Have no idea.
I don't think to succeed to that level, because here his performance is very normal. So I think if the UN would like to extend the mission, they should replace it by someone else who can do the job better than what is currently running. Up to now, 2 years passed, but unfortunately, Volker just getting public relations with the political parties and other stakeholders in the peace process, but he failed to take any decision. And the most fabulous failure, the resignation of the Prime Minister himself, the one who brought him from outside to the country. So I think no...
but he said, Dr. Samman, he said my mission is to facilitate, not to broker a deal.
No, even to facilitate, he must create the conducive environment to settle this problem and also to enhance civil democratic transformation. But unfortunately, he failed, and the one who brought him from outside to support him resigned from the whole process. What is remaining?
Not resigned because of him.
No, not because of him, but he must control this situation as his UN special representative. He has a power to control this dispute, but he is not keen enough to settle the dispute. This is my judgment. Yeah.
Okay, then I will go to another subject which is also related to this initiative. As we said, so many initiatives were produced, and not only the IGAD, the trio, till now they failed to do something. Last week, the resistance committees of Khartoum, they issued or they signed a charter for the
People's
Power Charter.
Yeah.
In which charter, one of the important points is that they want to nullify or revoke the constitutional document and replace it by another one. What are the main differences, or what are the main points in this People's Power Initiative?
The declarations of People Power Charter by Resistance Committee during the last week, this is qualitative change in the history of this committee, which he accused by many parties that these revolutionists, they don't have political vision how to rule the Sudan and how to control, if they were control the power, how to manage the state. Now they placed this new charters as alternative to the constitutional document released by December Revolution during 2019. The most important things in this special charter, the full dichotomy of the military forces from power. That is, and also they focus on 100% civil government, and they make very clear judgment about participations of the military forces or military components in the power. So this is a practical departure by the resistance committee to their predecessors, the constitutional documents. And there are so many points in which the political or the people power charters are completely different from the December Revolution documents that give right to share power with the military components of December Revolution. So I think they will face challenge. These documents represent a form of extremism. because 100% civil, it is difficult, especially here in Sudan. And my question to my sons and my friends and my students in the revolution and resistance committee, what's their mechanism to implement this special charter? Do they possess practical power in order to implement the 13 principles of these charters if they capture the power, for instance, or how they to be implemented? When we think about this charter, let us think more rational. 100% civil government, it is difficult, because this special components, they share the December revolutions. So we have to develop a model that compromise and make power sharing in a way that to make a gradual shift to the full civil government in the future, and to be gradual, not on this way. That is will create some sort of congestion again in the political arena. I think the resistance committee, they have to develop also their new manifesto and to create. And also I have one more comment that most of points were borrowed from internet. I think this will not solve the problem. So we need to make projects or a part of national project that totally developed by the Sudanese people in order to meet the requirements of the future. 100% civil government today, I think difficult for a package of reasons.
100% civil government in the, you mean transitional period?
During the transitional period. During transitional period,
100%.
yeah, I think, and this is part of extremism.
But it happened twice, Dr. Samman.
Before, but
after October and after, but there was presence of the military in the palace.
Yes.
After October Revolution 1964, General Aboud there was a civilian government, complete full civilian government, but the military was represented in the palace as to bring head of the state.
Head of the state.
Another in April 1985, General Sual Dahab representing the army was. So I think you mean we have to separate.
We have to separate. And I myself, I object again is the long transitional period. In the first days of December Revolution, I wrote article about the long period. Long period, that means more risk.
It leads to what we are
we are facing now. And that I forecasted early time after December Revolution. I wrote this article, I think, on September after April. I told them we have to contract the period and make it only 1 year to be controlled by the soldiers, by the military, and then we have to move to the election. This is, I think, the ideal way to manage. But most of the revolution makers, they reject this proposal, and they insist to make long period. Long period, that means more risk. And now you see, different risk, even the coup, military coup, part of the risk of the revolution. So we enter more complications as a result of extending period for further time that will expose the whole project to potential risk. So now we are facing this risk. In order to manage the risk, we have to apply the risk management model in order to quit from this political crisis today. The resistance committee should keep quiet and should work for strategic planning, not to insist on to stop dialogue. This is one of the weakness. How you solve the problem if you don't involve in negotiations with the other part? And also, what's your mechanism in order to implement the principles, the 13 principles of the people power charter? You don't have material force in order to implement these principles. So you need to share the discussion with the other parties. This is why we are creating grouping. Grouping is important. If for people you want to make the change, you have to widen the scope of the people who share December revolutions and to make a broader front that can make the change possible. But I think through this way, and I don't like to be disappointed or pessimistic about the charter, but I don't think it will realize its strategic objective.
It's not workable.
Yeah, it's not workable. unfortunately.
Does this mean that there is a kind of split in the revolutionary committees? Because this was the People's Power Charter that was produced by the
Use.
Khartoum, only Khartoum.
Yeah, yeah. In other way, we can think about this is only produced by use in the capital, in center. So you create a new also a problem. Where is the margin? The margin will claim that we don't include it in the people power charter. If you want to, you have to develop comprehensive approach. Comprehensive approach will be controlled by all states and capital as well. Under that position, you can talk about the change. Unless you go through this comprehensive approach, you wouldn't be able to change. And this is what I mentioned, that strategically, even we demonstrate for a couple of years in the future, you wouldn't be able to change the position. Because position now is different before December revolution. The part of the marginalized people now in the power. These people were very active components of December revolution.
Now
They're outside now. They are not involved in demonstration against government. So if you want your project or your manifesto to be supported by a wide range of the protests in the Sudan, you have to widen the scope of your proposal and to include the margins, the different states, not only the capital. That will create also, again, the clashes between center and margin. And
continue. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Also, let us go to a very important point, also which is related to the what is going on in Sudan, especially in Khartoum and in Darfur, about the credibility of the Juba agreement. Some people, they started to check or to think that the Juba agreement not applicable, cannot be put on the ground, from paper to the ground, and for after 2 years, almost 2 years from the ratification of the agreement, still people did not implement a single article of it. Only maybe the power, the sharing, by the involvement of armed struggle leaders, Dr. Jibril and Manawi, but others like the DDR, demobilization, disarmament, and reintegration of the armed forces of these groups, not yet started, and plus the repatriation of the people of Darfur, resettlement of the people of Darfur by calling the United Nations or the international community to help in the rehabilitation process and repatriation of those who were affected or displaced and affected. Not only this, but unfortunately and sadly enough, in Darfur, some violence started again. The way it started 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It started by skirmishes, a small confrontation,
Yes.
armed struggle, but it grew and it swelled to the full-fledged wars between the army and. Can you tell us about the failure of Juba agreement to be implemented? What's the reason?
Yeah, I cannot judge 100% failure, but the Juba agreement actually signed under very challenging environment in Sudan. You know, the problem between civil and military components. The military change in October, November stopped the financing, world financing to the peace process in Sudan. The intertribe conflicts in the war-affected area in Darfur and other parts of country. Juba agreement actually signed under highly unconducive political, economic environment in Sudan. For that package of challenging now facing the peace process in Sudan. And again, as you mentioned, there is breakthrough in violence in Darfur among the different tribes. Few weeks back between Rizegat and Fallata in South Darfur, between Masalit and Arabs in the North Darfur, West Darfur in Jinena, Kirenik, and different part of in North Al-Fashir, different part of Darfur is still facing the same tribal congestion. and also violence from time to time, and is still facing also armed robbery in different parts of the localities inside Darfur. So we cannot talk about peace now. Now people also, the displaced people is still in camps. They were felt to go back to their home villages, and because there is no finance, because there is money to finance the process. The DDR program was semi-stop because of also lack of finance. And if you remember, we mentioned several times one of the constraints that will encounter the whole peace process and exposed to the risk of failure, lack of finance. And lack of finance, now it is very clear and very evident that peace process facing practical challenge in order to be implemented. So by all means, let us take care of peace. Peace is important. Even this part or this proportional peace in Darfur, let us enhance it. Let us work together. International community should release money through humanitarian aid in order to finance peace requirements. Stopping humanitarian aid, I think this is irrelevant to the mission of the UN.
Yeah.
They have to make channels in order to support these vulnerable groups in different camps, in different areas in Darfur. People lack the basic needs today, and they may also exposed to the famine or starvation during season. So we need to again think about the positions of the peace. Peace create more complication in the eastern part of Sudan, and you know the Abiga involved in also protest against Juba agreement. The Kayan al-Shamal, the north, also involved in protest against Juba agreement. The Wasat, these are different tracks. People that still against the manifesto of the Juba agreement. So Juba agreement actually need, as I mentioned, the Troika and others international parties, they have to sit and revise the area of the weakness in order to make more comprehensive peace agreement in Sudan that finally result in practical peace or social peace among all Sudanese people in different parts of country. But under this position, peace may face challenge to the failure, and again Sudan will involve in violence and the tribal conflicts and the ethno-directional conflicts. These are inherent challenges in the peace process. So building peace actually a very challenging task that facing the government today. So we have to relax the congestions in the eastern region, and also we have to consider the protest of the north, the protest from the middle, a different part of region. They protest, they have own arguments about the peace. So we have to make a consolidated peace proposal that address all these discrepancies in the peace process. Otherwise, we'll again go to the violence.
So, as if you are saying that the EU agreement, one of the reasons which weakened is the tracks.
The 5 tracks.
The tracks. No, tracks because the Juba agreement was peace agreement.
Yeah.
When you say, literally, when you say peace agreement means agreement between two warring factions, each faction having guns, having weapon.
Yeah.
But the all tracks, the other tracks, did not carry guns against any regime.
Yeah.
So the annexing the tracks to the Juba agreement weakened this. Plus one other factor. Some people they say, why Juba? Why in Juba? Why not in Khartoum? From the beginning, who thought of taking the whole thing to Juba? Because the reason for the defection or the reason for holding arms by the armed struggle movements in Darfur and Blue Nile and in South Kordofan was against the Salvation regime. After the ousting and the uprooting of the Salvation regime, so there should have been no reason for these people to come to Khartoum.
I think this is to some extent acceptable, but I think this is a response to the past, because in the past the North, Khartoum, sponsor peace process in Juba. So I think part of recognition, the government of South Sudan handled this job in order to reconcile among the parties in the North. I don't think this is a very...
But ironically enough, at the same time when Juba peace talks, again, South Sudan itself was in trouble, and Hemeti, it was brokering a deal between Mashar and Salva Kiir. So it was, they were concurrently run, which is something absurd.
Happen, that is reconciled by the Vice President Fariq Ahmad Hamdan Daglo while he was sponsoring the peace process in Juba. So for a package of purpose, they need also support of the North in Juba to settle their own conflict between the oppositions and the government.
In my mind, I think this is something emotional. It has nothing. It is something emotional just to pay back.
Part of that of bill. To settle part of deal.
The pragmatic way is to hold it in Khartoum, like the round table conference. Although it did not solve the problem, but anyhow it ended.
During that time, the FCC, the control power in Khartoum, and they are unwilling to host the negotiation. This is also one of the weakness of them, because they make very clear protest against the peace agreement. The first time they were met in Addis Ababa, and they try to link and to bridge with the FCC, the Change and Freedom. Unfortunately, the armed movement failed to contact with the Change and Freedom, and that also create the gap from the first week. So if they welcome with armed forces as a part of the change, and they host them here in Khartoum, I think they can reach a better agreement, I think, if it were happened at that time. But unfortunately, from the beginning, they lack the confidence among the leaders. So that, I think, also one component that push the armed movement to move to Juba and to start from there. So I think from the beginning, you need the December Revolution faces challenges from day one. They face challenge. Because Change and Freedom not sponsor the national project in a proper way. They sometimes there are some interests, different interests, conflicting interests, deviate the whole projects, and that resulted in this very humble results for December Revolution.
So I think the December Revolution is now staggering.
Struggling to exist. There is only title, this is December Revolution. But actually the spirit of the revolution is totally neglected now.
The civil component is in complete disarray.
The
civil component
in disarray.
Different groups.
Different. They are conflicting now.
And now the Register Committee is another phenomena which is something good to the revolution. But they started to have some splits. The resistance group, I think, it is a good phenomena that our youth to involve in the public discourse. But they need to acquire some skills, I think, in order to secure the state. Because if they were capture power under this position, definitely that will lead to the catastrophe. Because they lack the technical know-how. They even use total exclusion. They don't accept, like before, they don't accept the others. So that will create a lot of complications if they were reach the power. Before that, they have to take training. They have to get the needed technical know-how. They have to contact with the pros, the people who have long, the old parties, and they know how to manage the public discourse, at least, and to get needed training in order to qualify themselves before taking this initiative. So their charters, and I don't expect that this charter will be supported by the revolution makers around the country. This is the big challenge. Anyhow, I think the resistance committees are now becoming a reality. In fact, very resilient groups of youth, very strong, very adamant in their call. But they need some
technical
tuning, some tuning to lead them to get Now they're calling for New Sudan.
Yeah.
Everybody is calling for New Sudan. I myself,
Yeah, for news.
I'm not the youth, but I call for New Sudan because
Yeah.
now Sudan has to be something new to cope
Yeah.
with the international development, speedy development.
Yeah.
But if we continue on the old
Sudan.
the old guard,
Yeah.
I call them the old guard.
Yeah.
We'll come to nowhere.
The same result. We get the same result.
Okay,
though.
okay. And it's anyhow the research committee.
So I talk about beautiful Sudan.
Beautiful Sudan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Now go to also the phenomenon, not only in Darfur, the resurfacing of violence,
Yeah.
which is spilled also to Khartoum.
Yeah.
Khartoum area, some people, some areas now, the looting and the picking and the violence is now commonplace in Khartoum.
Yeah.
Many people they start to be very skeptical to go around
Yeah.
or to go out. This will definitely have an effect on the investors.
Investment. Yeah.
The investors, they
Worry
want
about
strong government and they want peace and security. And then they look for the infrastructure. They look,
Yeah.
what can you say about this on the economy of the country, the dwindling economy?
Yeah.
As you are also an economist,
Yes.
what is the effect of this upheaval, the whole upheaval,
Yeah, I
including
think
the looting in the streets?
One of the most factor with the damaging consequences, the violence culture in Sudan. The violence culture is extended around the country. And was inherited back for centuries. Since the establishment of the modern Sudan, the whole state, 100% based on violence, not on the peaceful like December Revolution. All changed in Sudan through history, from early time and up to now, through violence. And this land, the land of violence, actually. That is one of the problems, actually. Unless we introduce the peace culture and replace the violence culture, wouldn't be able to host the investment from outside the world. Now, although there is influx of investment in some strategic sector like mining, livestock sector, this always accepting investment even under the violence they used to receive investor from outside. But by all means, the violence will reduce the total number of investor or potential investors in the economy. And people will be reluctant and worry in order to put their money in a land of violence.
Yes,
So
sure.
Sudanese people strongly require to stop violence in their life. That you need the academic curriculum to be revised in order to address these cultural features of the Sudanese people. The Sudanese character need to revise psychological and cultural factors in order to meet the requirement of the air. So I think one of the most negative impact of this character, the violence against very small things. They can find against mobile. They can find with the bus drivers for only one piastre. These people, and even they can die for this only one piastre. Something very funny actually, and very dramatic. Violence now moved to Khartoum. And the Tis'a Tawila is a good example for violence inside, and the insecurity inside the capital city. It was a common phenomena and different. The capital was surrounded by centers of the crimes. So I think under this environment, you cannot talk about investment. You cannot talk about elevating poverty. You cannot talk about improving the standard of living. Because you yourself, as a governor, you are responsible for the security. So violence now in Sudan is increasing due to the poverty, due to the incomplete peace process, due to the many reasons, and beside the cultural inheritance of the Sudanese character itself is a part of the dilemma itself. So you need an integrated program in order to replace violence by peace.
So all the prerequisites conducive to investors, which attract investors, are not available now. As we said, the peace, security, then comes political systems.
Yeah.
Political, now there is no government.
Yes.
Plus, then comes number 4 and 5, the infrastructure and the other things. So, but Sudan is, as you are an economist, Sudan is full of resources.
Yeah, rich of resources. But I am worried that some criminal investor can get this environment and enter, because as you mentioned, this is unconducive environment for rational investor.
No, right.
Other investor, they like this environment. So this is the challenge. They rob the resources. We are worried about
We
that.
already started during the Salvation.
Yeah. So you have to be careful about violence. Yeah, we have to stop the violence. Investor will come to the country, but what type of investors they involved in this? They can take your resources.
We have to form a government first.
Yes, you have to get.
Now we don't have a government.
We don't have government for 7 months.
Having talking about the government, now we go to something very important, which is, as you know, and you are active and you are right in the middle of the revolution of December,
Yeah.
and you are also an economist. One of the main reasons, the reason for the ousting or uprooting of the Salvation regime was the deterioration of the economy, to the extent that people failed to get their money from banks, and to the extent unprecedented state of cannot reach your money.
Yeah.
One of the other reasons, as you know, is the corruption.
Yeah.
That's why the slogans of the revolution since December 2018,
Yeah.
they talk about this.
Yes.
The corruption,
Yes.
corruption, all they talk about the corruption.
Yes.
And the other about the deterioration of the
Standard
of
of
what triggered the December revolution
Yeah.
is the increase in prices of the bread.
Bread,
If
yeah.
you remember in Adbara
Yeah.
in the east, in
Inflation.
in the Khashmargir Bayt.
Yes.
So now the situation is.
Getting worse. Definitely.
So
So
what
we
will happen?
cannot.
Can you tell us about the
Yeah, we cannot deceive the viewers that now the economic environment is very tight and the situation getting worse than before December revolution. So why? What are the main factor behind this very tight economic condition? As you mentioned, that we talk several times. Unless we make the economic variable is a leading force for the whole change in Sudan, we wouldn't maintain any change in our life, whether in the security or political. Or the most important that we have to appreciate the value of the economic variable. By value of economic variable, I mean that the government should pay maximum attention to the economics. That means inflation. Inflation, one of the root causes of December revolution. Now the inflation magnified 100 times after revolutions. So people, when they change al-Bashir, they expect to have lower rate of inflation in the economy. But unfortunately, they get it many times before al-Bashir. People also, they complain from the lack of employment for youth. Youth don't access the market of the jobs, and they don't find job in the economy. The exchange rate, the speculators, they play a very important role in increasing the prices of dollars and appreciating value of Sudanese national currency. So most of the problems which were prevailed during al-Bashir now are manifested in a new look.
magnified?
Yeah, magnified many times. So the economic position worsened dramatically. And most of the people today in Sudan living in a very tight and deteriorated standard of living. They lack even the healthy drinking water. They lack medicine to their kids. They lack education. And you know the results of the schools this time. Most of the old schools were failed. So the position and the standard of living for Sudanese people worsened dramatically after December revolution. This is not the target of the revolution. target of revolution to make the change and to improve the standards of the peoples around the country and give chance to the Sudanese people to enjoy better standard of living and economic welfare. But unfortunately, now the Sudanese people are suffering from lack of basic needs, and most important, they will be exposed to the famine and starvation during the autumn seasons. So the economic tightness today was one reason of the December revolution, again prevailing and magnified many times. Inflation hit unprecedented levels. Although they officially mentioned that the rate of inflation decreased during the last few months, but in practice, when you go to the market, you will find different results, that prices are doubles in markets. The exchange rate, although the officially decreased, but in practice you will find difficult to get your dollars in market at a affordable rate. The unemployment, we don't have jobs for the youth and job seekers in the economy. The total GDP in the economy dramatically affected and to go to the minus. So what is the justifications or economic reason for a December revolution? Do you take create revolution in order to improve economic indicator or to decline them?
Okay, Professor, what went wrong after Hamdok succeeded? Just before the 25th of October, the international community worked very hard and in a speedy way.
Yeah.
They helped, and the dollar rate stabilized.
Yeah.
Commodities were available,
Yeah.
and assistance started to flow.
Yeah.
Assistance started to flow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All of a sudden it stopped.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what went wrong? Why?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why the 25th of October?
Yes.
The reason for the 25th of October.
Some strategic mistake, like the October 25 change that stopped the foreign aid to Sudan and financial assistance from donors from outside, and finally Hamdok himself was resigned from the government. So that complicated the matter and created what we describe it as unconducive environment to attract investment and unconducive climate for investors from outside. And this is actually what makes the position more tight in Khartoum and in Sudan, because stopping the inflow of the foreign direct investment to the economy that resulted in the slowdown in GDP in the economy. Needless to repeat that investment is one of the components of the total GDP in the economy. So we stopped the inflow of foreign direct investment to the economy, and finally we resulted in down and slowdown in total production in the economy. The productivity per Faddan went down. The productivity per worker went down. All the components of the production were affected. Taxes increased dramatically in order to harm the producer. In incidence of tax, we shift tax to the producer in the economy. The economic policies, it is damaging policies to the economy, and also enhance the failure of December revolution. As I mentioned, when we have to make special attention to the economic variable, the economic variable is the most important determinant to the success of the December revolution. Unless you address the economic problem, and I wrote article also in this area to explain why economic factors is very important to the December revolution in order to secure the civil democratic transformation in Sudan. Unless we address the economic and we find applicable program of structural change and economic reform to stop corruption, to stop speculation, to stop different distortions in the economy, we wouldn't achieve any change in Sudan unless we take the priority. Economic should be the top, and we have to develop models in order to get maximum use of our potential resources. Sudan is the land rich with the resources, with the poorest people in the world. This is an unacceptable equation. We have to make it proper.
You have to make it
Yes.
to fix the,
Yes.
but okay, we have a couple of minutes maybe.
Yes.
generally speaking, so you think that the economy and politics are integrated.
Yes.
So we cannot solve the economic problems without solving the political problems.
Yeah.
So now you give the priority
Yeah.
to the politicians
Yes.
to join hand and cooperate with the international community through the trio committee.
Yeah.
Some
As
some people
mentioned.
must give in. Some actions they should not stand
Yeah.
as long as they have to relax some of their demands. What do you think of that in 1 minute?
Yeah, I think that's mentioned by Montesquieu. This French philosopher mentioned that we cannot understand economic in isolations of other disciplines. So we cannot understand economics without referring to the politics and social and culture. As I mentioned, violence part of culture. So the science are interrelated. Now, if we were planning to settle the case in Sudan, we need at least to deal with the political variable. And I mentioned in model, call it pioneer variable model. In that model, I explained how the states assume that other variable like security variable, like cultural variable, like the cultural variable, they should be remained fixed, while the economic variable should be variable. And the government should pay more attention to the economic variable. So in order to achieve the goals in this special condition, because political variable leading the economy and the security variable lead the politics. So in Sudan, we have to rearrange the matter. We have to put the economic in the beginning, and the other factor should come after in order to rearrange the state in a way that to take off, not to go around.
Okay, thank you, Professor Samani Hanoun, for being with us in the last hour or so. We talked about very important issues concerning what evil, the prevailing turbulence in Sudan. Thank you, dear viewers, for being with us in the last hour. So hope to see you next week on another issue of Dialogue Horizon. Bye.